20 years ago, he said goodbye to his 6-year-old daughter, but he never got the chance to say goodbye forever. One ordinary afternoon, she disappeared. One moment she was there, the next moment she was gone. The search lasted for months. Police followed every lead. Missing posters covered the town. Her bedroom stayed untouched, as if he was waiting for her to walk back through the door at any moment. Every birthday he bought a cake. Every year he wondered the same question: is my daughter still out there somewhere? But as the years passed, hope slowly turned into a painful memory, until one rainy evening someone knocked on his door. Standing outside was a young woman he had never seen before. She looked nothing like the little girl from his photographs, but then she said 4 words that made his entire world stop. "Dad, I'm finally home." At first, he couldn't believe her. How could this stranger possibly be his daughter? Then she mentioned a childhood memory that no one else knew, a song he used to sing before bedtime, a secret nickname, a moment only they shared. After 20 years of searching, the daughter he lost had returned. But she wasn't coming back with just answers. She was bringing a truth that would force him to question everything about the night she disappeared. This is the story of a father who lost his daughter and the impossible moment when she finally came home.
20 years ago, his life was completely ordinary. He was a father who loved his 6-year-old daughter more than anything in the world. She was a curious child with a bright smile, a habit of asking endless questions, and a laugh that could fill an entire room. To him, she wasn't just his daughter, she was the center of his world. That afternoon started like any other family day. They went to a local community event where children played, families gathered, and neighbors enjoyed the weekend together. For a few minutes, everything felt perfect, until one moment changed everything. He looked away for only a short time. When he turned back, his daughter was gone. The first hours were filled with panic. The police arrived. Volunteers searched nearby streets. Neighbors walked through parks calling her name. Her photograph appeared everywhere. Missing posters covered telephone poles, stores, and community boards. The entire town searched for the little girl who disappeared without explanation. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. But the answers never came. There was no clear evidence, no confirmed sightings, no explanation, only silence. For most people, the case eventually became an old story, but for him, it never became the past. Every morning, he woke up wondering if today would be the day she came home. Time continued moving forward. His daughter grew older somewhere in the world, but in his mind, she was always 6 years old. Her bedroom remained almost exactly the same. Her favorite toy stayed on the shelf. Her old drawings were still attached to the wall. Friends told him he needed to move on. They said he deserved to live his life again. But how do you move on from someone who might still be alive? Every year on her birthday, he bought a cake. Every year he lit candles, and every year he made the same silent wish. Please let her know I never stopped looking for her. Then, after 20 years of unanswered questions, something happened that he never expected. It was a rainy evening. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet he had become used to. Then came a sound, a knock at the front door. When he opened it, he saw a young woman standing outside. Her appearance was nervous. Her eyes were filled with uncertainty. She said his name, not by accident, not from a stranger's curiosity. She knew exactly who he was. He asked the question that immediately came to his mind. "Have we met before?" The woman looked at him with tears in her eyes. Then she said, "I think I'm your daughter."
At first, his mind refused to accept it. 20 years had passed. The little girl he remembered was gone. Standing in front of him was a grown woman, a stranger carrying a familiar piece of his past. He asked how she could possibly know. Then she began describing memories. The small yellow blanket she slept with, the bedtime song he sang every night, the little nickname only he used, the little moments that disappeared from everyone else's memory, but remained alive inside hers. Slowly, the impossible became real. She had spent years believing she belonged to another family. After discovering old documents and unanswered questions about her childhood, she began searching for the truth. The search eventually led her back to him, the father who never stopped waiting. Their first embrace was emotional, but it was also complicated, because 20 years of separation cannot disappear in a single moment. He loved her immediately. That part never changed. But he also realized something painful. He knew the little girl she used to be. He didn't know the woman standing in front of him. They missed birthdays, first days of school, teenage memories, important moments that could never be returned. They were family, but they were also two people learning each other for the first time. The reunion was not the end of their story. It was the beginning of a new one, a story about healing, forgiveness, and rebuilding a bond that time tried to destroy. Months later, they began creating new memories, simple things, coffee together, long conversations, looking through old photographs, learning about each other's lives. He discovered the woman his daughter had become, and she discovered the father who had spent 20 years loving someone he thought he might never see again. The past could not be changed. The lost years could not be returned. But they could choose what happened next. Because sometimes the greatest miracle is not finding someone who was lost. It is finding the courage to love them again after they return. The psychology of losing someone who is still alive. At first, this story appears to be about a daughter who came home after 20 years, but beneath the reunion is something much deeper. It is a story about grief without an ending, about identity, about the human need for closure, and about how love can survive even when time has taken away everything familiar. Psychologists describe this experience as ambiguous loss. It happens when someone important disappears, but there is no certainty about what happened. Unlike death, where there is a clear ending, disappearance leaves a person trapped between hope and grief. The question never stops. Are they gone forever? Are they still alive somewhere? Should I keep waiting? For this father, the pain was not only losing her daughter, it was living every day without knowing whether he had truly lost her. That uncertainty can become one of the most emotionally exhausting experiences a person can endure. Many people might wonder, how could he wait for 20 years? The answer lies in the strength of emotional attachment. The human brain creates powerful bonds with the people we love. A parent does not simply remember a child through photographs. They remember through sounds, smells, small habits, moments that become permanently connected to their identity. Even after decades, those emotional connections can remain incredibly strong.
Hope becomes a way of surviving, not because the person refuses to accept reality, but because love refuses to disappear. When a child disappears at a young age and returns as an adult, both sides face a difficult emotional challenge. The parent remembers the child they lost, but the child has lived an entire life somewhere else. 20 years create experiences, relationships, personal beliefs, memories. The parent must learn, this is my child, but also a person I'm meeting for the first time. The returning child may also struggle with difficult questions. Where do I belong? Who am I connected to? Which life is truly mine? Reunion brings happiness, but it can also bring confusion. Many people imagine that a reunion after decades will instantly repair everything, a hug, a few tears, a happy ending. But real life is more complicated. Love creates the foundation, but rebuilding a relationship requires time. Trust must be rebuilt. Stories must be shared. Two people who missed 20 years of life must slowly create a new connection. The goal is not to recover the past is gone. The goal is to build something meaningful from the present. Stories like this often raise difficult questions. Who is responsible? Who should be forgiven? How do people move forward after losing so much time? Forgiveness does not mean forgetting the pain. It does not mean pretending nothing happened. Forgiveness means choosing to not allow the past to control the future. Sometimes healing comes when people stop asking, why did this happen to me? And begin asking, what can we build from here? This story reminds us that some bonds are stronger than distance, stronger than time, stronger than circumstances. 20 years were taken away from this father and daughter. They cannot get those years back. They cannot recreate childhood memories. They cannot undo the pain. But they can choose what happens next. Because family is not only measured by the moments we share. Sometimes it is measured by the love that survives when those moments are gone.
For 20 years, he kept waiting for a moment he wasn't sure would ever come. A knock at the door, a familiar voice, a second chance. He spent 2 decades imagining what he would say if he ever saw his daughter again. He imagined holding the little girl he lost. He imagined telling her that he never stopped searching, that he never forgot her. But when she finally returned, he realized something unexpected. She was no longer the 6-year-old child from his memories. She was a woman who had lived an entire life without him. And he was no longer just trying to find the daughter he lost. He was learning how to know the daughter he found. Because sometimes getting someone back does not erase the pain of losing them. Sometimes healing means accepting that the past cannot be rewritten. The birthdays they missed, the conversations they never had, the memories they never created. Those moments were gone forever. But what remained was something powerful, a choice. The choice to stop focusing only on the years they lost and begin building the years they still had. Their story was not a perfect ending. It was something more realistic, a beginning, a reminder that love is not always measured by how much time we have with someone. Sometimes it is measured by how willing we are to open our hearts when life gives us another chance. Because people can disappear, time can be stolen, life can take unexpected turns, but some connections are strong enough to survive the impossible. And sometimes, after years of searching, the greatest miracle is not finding someone who was lost. It is realizing they were never truly forgotten.
If this story touched you, share your thoughts below.
Could you rebuild a relationship after 20 years apart? Do you believe love can survive even when time takes everything else away? Subscribe for more stories about human experiences, hidden truths, and the psychology behind the choices we make. Because every story has two sides, but only one truth.